Yes, it was a concept album as much as it did begin life before we got into the studio, and there was a fairly complete amount of music before we went into the studio. The arrangements and the finishing touches to the music were as a result of contributions by all the members of the band, not just me. And I think it was very much a band album, although maybe it comes across as being, very. I suppose actually because of that, it comes across as being very complex and a bit sort of strange lyrically and musically. But it was very much a band record, as indeed was Passion Play, which followed. It was another sort of, band, all very much involved in the arrangement of the music. But I think in itself that approach is a bit of a cul-de-sac in terms of rock music, because it wasn't really sufficiently. I mean, it was a bit naive musically in some ways, and if I was going to do that kind of music today, I think I would spend a lot more time than the 3 or 4 weeks it took to do Thick as a Brick. Well, no, our negative UK press started in 1969 with Benefit, when a lot of people began to, visibly go off the group that they'd helped to make popular in the first place. 72 and Thick as a Brick there wasn't a particular evidence of any more or less adverse criticism. We had our usual mixed reviews. Passion Play got mixed reviews, but it got one or two widely circulated very bad reviews, most noticeably from Chris Welch and Melody Maker, and I think some chap on the New York Times or something, some clot, who basically, went down in my books as a bad reviewer, because rather like Chris Welch, there was no attempt made to understand, the evolution of Passion Play from Thick as a Brick, or really what it was going towards. It was a very personal reaction and a bit vitriolic, because, a reviewer who has followed a band and maybe liked them, and then finds he's got a record that he really can't get to grips with, or actually just personally doesn't like, feels, I suppose, in some way betrayed, that he's a band that he was really into suddenly delivers something he doesn't like, and he gets a bit sort of over the top about it. And it was just a rather personal attack, which I felt was a bit unnecessary from Chris Welch, who, at the time we sort of felt we knew quite well. No way you're going to like everything that anybody writes or plays. There's going to be some stuff that you just don't rate at all. But Chris Welch's attitude was that it was actually bad music, and I used those words with quotes around them. He did actually say that it was bad music. Well, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Certainly, musically, it was in no way inferior, I think, to Thick as a Brick. It was a difficult album for people to listen to if you were looking for instant entertainment. Harder than Thick as a Brick, I should imagine. But to say it was a bad album, I think, is a bit unfair. Nonetheless, Melody Maker, as the sort of Bible of the music press as it was in those days, and Chris Welch being a very influential writer, it was a very quoted review, and one that I think one way or another found its way around at a time when Melody Maker was spreading its wings and going for export sales in both in America and a lot of other countries as well. So it does a lot of harm at that particular point. But I don't think Passion Play was. You're being entirely unfair and really just glossing over it in the same way as I think so many other people do when you say it had unanimous bad reviews. They weren't unanimous whatsoever. There were a lot of mixed reviews, there were some good reviews, and there were some bad reviews, but there were one or two particularly bad ones which were the loudest. And unfortunately, one of Terry Ellis's very bad management decisions, if not his worst, although perhaps it's his second worst, we'll come on to that later, was that he decided we should reply to this bad criticism from Chris Welch and Melody Maker by giving them a headline story suggesting, or really telling them, that we had retired. We had quit as a group because of bad press. His idea being that would get us a front-page story on Melody Maker and sell us more records. Well, it got the front-page story on Melody Maker, but everybody just quite predictably and quite rightly said, it was just sour grapes, and we were just reacting sort of in a very infantile fashion by announcing that we were going to retire because we'd had a bad review.